and gentlemen, it is Wednesday, baby! Hump Day, we're back with you, rocking and rolling. Hottest show on the streets, bringing you your Alabama football news. In my own words, yours truly, Stephen Smith, Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Glad to have you all in here checking us out today. You know what time it is. You hit that subscribe button, smash that subscribe button, stop all that you're doing. Hit subscribe right now. Make this your place, your spot, your network, channel, platform to talk Crimson Tide. Get every friend, family member, casual Bama fan, diehard Bama fan, consumer of Bama football to subscribe, because you feeling the content, you enjoying what we got going on over here, they will enjoy it as well. Don't forget to like the show. Give us a thumbs up. Like the show, give us a thumbs up right there. Trying to get this 50 likes on the show out the gate. Appreciate the support from all of you. Daily Super Chat Go $100. Daily Super Chat Go $100 right there. All donations appreciated and welcome. J.D. Long getting us started with that $9.99 for Super Chats. Appreciate that there from J.D. Long. Turn all of those notifications on YouTube. Hit that little notification bell so that way you get all of your updates here on your Crimson Tide. New showtime for In My Own Words, 6:30 p.m. Central Time every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. In My Own Words, 6:30 p.m. Central Time right here on TDA's YouTube channel. We got a lot to get to on tonight. We want to hear from you, the incredible fans of Alabama football. You can do this by calling 205-448-1358. But I'm going to call in to let your voice be made known on the show, 205-448-1358. And one more time, 205-448-1358. Well, John, as we get into topic number one here of the conversation, and a very interesting one, after seeing what we saw from Alabama football for the 2022 season, and then watching Monday's national championship game between Georgia and TCU. Well, that wasn't a game, that was a massacre. That was a complete bloodbath. TCU was the sacrificial lamb headed for the slaughter. But after what we saw from Alabama in 2022 and Monday night's national championship game, it has left me with one thought, with one major thought. And I get it. You have a lot of the national talking heads saying, you know, Georgia's the new king of college football. They're the new dynasty of college football. You know, Kirby Smart's on top of the world right now. All of these different scenarios and statements that the Alabama fan base will have to deal with for the entire offseason. I'm going to say this. Monday's game, in my opinion, Monday's game is about to return Saban to the old Saban. Monday's game is about to bring back the old Nick Saban. And here is why I say this. I say this because this offseason is going to be the most critical, the most crucial of the Saban era in terms of all words that have to deal with urgency. Whether you look at critical, crucial, important, vital, all words that have to deal with the term urgency will all be in play, will all happen this offseason for Coach Saban and the University of Alabama. I don't know how big Saban is to music, is in music. I don't know Saban's musical taste, if you will. But if I was Coach Saban, I would have one song on loop the entire offseason, and that would be Drake's song Headline. And there'll be one verse in particular for Coach Saban from that song that I would have as the soundtrack of the offseason. That verse is, I had somebody tell me I fell off. Ooh, I needed that. And they want to see me pick back up, but where I leave it at. That's the verse that needs to be on Saban's soundtrack this entire offseason, because the fact that Bama's got to get this thing back right in terms of the physicality, the dominance, the tenacity, the discipline, the excellence in terms of this program. When you look at Saban at Alabama, I know people say experience is the best teacher, and it is. You don't learn without experience. Experience grows you, it helps you, it develops you. But along with experience, I think friction is a good teacher as well. Having some friction, having some competition, having a challenge, the whole iron sharpening iron, if you will. If you go to the early years of Coach Saban, that friction helped him at Alabama in discussing Urban Meyer when he was at Florida, and even Dabo Swinney at Clemson. We all remember Urban Meyer. You know, Florida was supposed to be the dynasty. They were supposed to be. They won a national championship in 2006. Tim Tebow won a Heisman Trophy in 2007. 2008, you know, Alabama, Florida played for the SEC championship. You know, at Florida, got the win and moved on to win the national championship in 2008. And Florida was the heavy favorite to win the championship in 2009. Given that friction there to Coach Saban. But Saban made it up in his mind that the power of college football was not going to reside in Gainesville, Florida. It was going to reside in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So what did Saban do? He worked meticulously. He worked passionately. He was intense. He had everything in order, had no stone left unturned to get Alabama right where it needed to be, to take down Florida, to snatch the dynasty from Florida, And for 10 plus years, he had Alabama as the bully of college football. Even when, Dabo Swinney won 2 national championships, beat Nick Saban in both of those, people never looked at Clemson as a dynasty. They never looked at Clemson as a true dynasty, even though Dabo Swinney took down Nick Saban in 2 national championship games. Saban was still able to keep Alabama at the top, keep Alabama at the forefront of college football as that team and as that program, even with the friction. But now a bigger form of friction has come in the form of his old protege, in the form of a former assistant, in the form of Kirby Smart. Bigger form of friction. And we live in a world, people, where, what's that old slogan? What have you done for me lately? What have you done for me currently? And the world is constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. It's constantly adjusting and adapting. Things were not as they used to be 10 years ago, 5 years ago, heck, 2 years ago. I mean, it's not the same. We're in a constantly evolving world here. And in terms of what have you done for me lately, Kirby Smart is a back-to-back college football playoff national champion, and Coach Saban has not won a national championship in the last 2 years. And Kirby's going to milk that hard when you look at recruits in terms of trying to get those guys to come to Georgia, as he should do, as he should play this. So if you're looking at what have you done for me lately, Kirby Smart as winning 2 national championships back-to-back. Coach Saban has not won a national championship in the last 2 years. And Kirby is trying to snatch the dynasty throne here from Coach Saban. If you saw after the 65-7 beatdown Georgia gave TCU, Kirby kept throwing 3 fingers up in the air. He kept throwing 3 fingers up. What is that symbolizing? Kirby is trying to go after the elusive, the evasive three-peat that nobody else has been able to get here in college football. USC tried it with Pete Carroll. It didn't happen. Alabama tried to do the three-peat after getting a championship in 2011 and 2012, but a kick six against Auburn prevented that happening in 2013. Kirby's won 2021. Kirby's now won this past season. He's trying to go after that illustrious three-peat, and if he's able to get it, the dynasty talk for Georgia becomes legit. If he's able to get it, it becomes legit there for the Bulldogs. So the big thing here for Coach Saban is, can he prevent the throne from being taken? Can he disrupt Georgia's momentum? And if he can, in which he can do this, it's got to happen now. It's got to happen starting now. This offseason, you got to make changes on the coaching staff. I don't care what the numbers say. The numbers say Alabama's got a top 10 defense. My eyeballs who look at this Alabama defense every year, especially the last 2 years, are saying, no, this is not a top 10 defense. Changes have to be made on the coaching staff, have to be. When you look at what Georgia's got going over there with 5-star generals, when you're talking Todd Monken offensively, defensively, Kirby Smart, Will Muschamp, and Glenn Schumann, and you got the master motivator and Scott Cochran over there, they've got 5-star generals running over there at Alabama. I mean, case in point, you go back, there is, John, I don't know if you saw this, and if you haven't seen this, John, and listeners out there, I encourage you to do this. Audio from Kirby Smart's pregame speech before the national championship game was played leaked on social media. I suggest you give that a look. It's got a bunch of expletives in there, but that was raw, uncut, intense, passionate, in your face. I don't give a you-know-what. Let's mess them up, Kirby Smart, in that speech. It was as raw as it gets. You hear that audio, you're going to go, dear Jesus. No wonder TCU was massively outmatched. You're going to go, dear Jesus. No wonder TCU was headed for the slaughter. It was an NFL team going up against a JV team out there. No wonder TCU wet the bed. They were going against killers, like real certified killers. If you go and you listen to that speech there that Kirby Smart gave that team before the championship game, and it's like, if you look at Georgia now and Alabama from 2009 to 2015, Georgia is that version of Alabama. It doesn't need a hotshot quarterback. It literally took a no-name. I don't even think Stetson Bennett was a blue chipper. It literally took a no-name, somebody who was probably working at Walmart or McDonald's in a past life, and won national titles back-to-back with that guy. Alabama has Bryce Young, 5-star, hotshot, trigger puller, could not win a national championship as a starting quarterback, but Georgia has Stetson Bennett and gets 2 natties with Stetson Bennett. If you look at Bama, 2015 to 2015, and you look at Georgia now, Georgia is old Bama, and Saban has got to find a way to disrupt this momentum that Georgia's on. But it starts with this offseason for Coach Saban, getting the right coaches. You got to hit home runs. You got to hit home runs with this coaches. They're getting the right coaches. I don't care what the numbers say. My eyeballs are telling me this is not the Bama that needs to be out here. Get the right coaches in here. You got the recruits. You got the 2023 recruits. They're here. They're hungry. They're ready to ball. Get the right coaches in here to reset this culture and reset this program. Also with that, reinvest back in the program by getting former players in here that have played for you, that have won national championships under you, that know what the standard really and truly is. Get those guys back in here. Reinvest in the program. You've already started doing it by bringing back Clinton Dix as a player personnel guy. Get more in here in terms of the Alabama football program. That's number 2. I mean, John, I was in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl. I was at Caesars Superdome. I was in New Orleans. I spoke to several distinguished, credible people. I had lunch with quite a few distinguished, credible people. Not going to give out who they are, but in that lunch with them, I was told specifically, Alabama had the players for the national championship this year. They didn't have the coaches. And I was told this by these distinguished people. So if I'm Coach Saban and I'm trying to offset the run that Kirby's trying to generate right now, it starts with getting the right coaches in here, getting tougher, getting more physical, getting back to being the aggressor, the bully of college football. Because if you look at college football currently, Georgia's the bully right now. Bama's got to get back to being the bully. And for Coach Saban, that's got to start this offseason right now. You may not want to hear it. Truth hurts, but it's got to start right now this offseason. If you're looking at Alabama and Nick Saban trying to offset, disrupt with Kirby's doing it with Georgia, but at the same time, winning national championships itself. We're going to go to our first break here on the show. Don't touch that dial, just getting started. Upon our return, we entertain your phone calls, your thoughts. We get to your conversations right after this.
What's up, Bama Nation? This is Rudy Griffin, former Alabama defensive lineman, and you're listening to my guy, Stephen M. Smith, in my own words, brought to you by Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Roll Tide, roll!
9 players have teamed up and released the Alabama team paper. which is a video yearbook they've put out for sale direct to fans. Now, for the first time, small dollar purchases from the fans can support the players as a group as well as a great cause, because $1 of every subscription payment is donated to the Boys and Girls Club of America. Be a 5-star fan base and support your team and a great cause with Team Paper. Check it out at teampaper.com/Alabama.
Remember the taste of Grandma's delicious sweets? Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes brings back those precious memories with just one bite. Each cake made from scratch. They make the perfect dessert to share with family and friends for any occasion, and ordering is easy. Visit emily'sheirloompoundcakes.com. Click the online store and shop. Then pick up your fresh cake at the kitchen in downtown Homewood. Order yours online at emily'sheirloompoundcakes.com. Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes, making memories from scratch.
As we're back into the action here, folks, from the break, hottest show on the streets, talking Bama football news. In my own words, yours truly, Stephen Smith of TDA. Definitely got to say this right here. Am I saying that the run of championships is over for Coach Saban? That's not what I'm saying. However, I am saying this. If we have to be objective. We have to look at this objectively. And looking at this from that lens, Saban's got to get something done. He's got to get something done. He's got to fix something. Because we can't just sit here and look and say that Georgia's not bullying folks when they are. We can't just look up here and say that Georgia is not handling people when they are. I mean, they just massacred TCU on national TV. And we saw what Alabama once was under Coach Saban. Bama was massacring people. And we as consumers of Alabama football enjoyed when Alabama was playing joyless murder ball on the opponent. So I know sometimes it hurts to be objective, but we have to. When you look at what's going on over there at Georgia and what's happened at Alabama the last 2 seasons, particularly this past season right here. And if you're trying to get this thing right in terms of the culture, Saban's got to do some things. He's got to. He's the head guy. He's the main boss. He's the one making the big bucks. He has got to get this thing solved and fixed here. But we're going to go to the phone lines, call topic here. We'll call segment brought to you by the Blue Wrench Gang, 205-448-1358. Number to call in. Let your voice be heard on the show, 205-448-1358. We grab your call. We grab this first call right here. We got shout out Don Parker with that $5 donation in the Super Chats. Appreciate that love. They're coming from Mr. Don Parker. But 205-448-1358, the number to call in. We grab this call. You're live on the show. What's going on? How we feeling? State your name and where you calling from.
Stephen, what's shaking on Wednesday night? What's happening, man?
Doing good, Waylon. Doing good, man. Trying to look and see, for Coach Saban, this spring and this offseason, this spring, this summer, this fall, huge for Saban because he's trying to you got to disrupt all of this talk of dynasty going on at Georgia, but at the same time, you got to remind people that you are still the guy in terms of college football. You look at Nick Saban and in his tenure with some championships himself.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he made a stop by and talked to Cliff Kingsbury and a few other people. I don't know if he had a little chat with Garrett Riley or not after that embarrassment. I don't know if I'd talk to him or not. I don't think he's built for SEC football. But Kingsbury might be the man to fit in there. He was there at Texas A&M, developed Johnny Manziel, the OC when Kevin Sumlin was at Texas A&M, and also you got to remember he was Texas Tech head coach when Pat Mahomes was there at Texas Tech. So look at all the records he broke at Texas Tech. So the guy can make some talent. There's no doubt about that. And he's had a couple of 1,000-yard running backs, I think, too. I don't remember the names on, but we need to remember Ahmad Galloway. This is a very, very sad situation here. A young man at 42, Stephen, is way too early to leave here, 42 years old.
Absolutely. No, Ahmad Galloway, one of the tremendous running backs in the Alabama football history, especially in the early 2000s under Coach Fran and Mike Dubose. I mean, Ahmad Galloway, sweet feet, cutting ability to get up and down the field and score, and just played the game with so much life and free-flowing spirit. And like you mentioned, Wayne, in 42, you never want to see people leave this world without experiencing a full life, and Ahmad just stolen from us.
Exactly. Also, Rick Carly had Marvin in the thing that he wrote on Facebook today about we need to remember Marvin too. He's taking this hard, but we need to remember Alabama done this, twice. There's very few teams that's done this. This is a very, very elite class, 78, 79, and 11 and 12. You had Nebraska done it. Minnesota had a 3-peat. Look at Oklahoma, I think, done it. A 2. There's just very few people that's done this. So, I don't think the sky's falling. I know the sky's not falling. Saban to get. He's taking his time this time to get it to right people in the right places. He's not rushing the situation. Some people say, well, he's not letting these people go. Well, he's going to do what he wants to when he gets ready to do it. And I don't think he's going to listen to us too much. But anyway, everybody's entitled to their opinion. But anyway, this is a great show. The Blue Ridge Gang, y'all make this show the hottest show on the street, hottest show in the country, hottest show on YouTube. Y'all looking good. Just hold on, Coach Saban, to get this straightened out. I guarantee you, 11 and 2 is not bad. A lot of teams wish they had this record. He'll straighten it out. I love y'all. We're going to go on a little vacation. I don't know. We'll be gone a couple of weeks. So y'all hold the fort down. Take care of everything. Make Steven laugh and make him proud. Blow this show up. I'll be back in a couple of weeks. I love all y'all. We'll see y'all in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye, everyone.
That is Elvis leaving the building, the President Waylon, calling in to get us started here on a Wednesday. We grab this call. You're live on the show. What's happening? How we feeling? State your name and where you calling from.
What's going on, Steve? Elijah from Jersey. How you feeling tonight?
Doing good, man, and yourself?
I'm hanging in there. I've been hearing this Dynasty talk as well, man. Most definitely, you can't discredit what Alabama has done over the last 10 to 15 years in college football. So as far as, Georgia taking over the Dynasty, nah. Because the Dynasty is over a good amount of period of time. It's not 2 seasons. It's over, 10, 15, 20 seasons. That's what I would consider a dynasty. And Alabama has been dominant over 10, 15 years of college football. But I will say they are the new kids on the block, and they some badass kids, man. Them kids is bad as hell. And Alabama going to have to put a stop to it because on a consistent basis, Georgia's very consistent. Alabama wasn't consistent this year. In games Alabama should have won by 3 and 4 touchdowns, Alabama was in a dogfight and pulling away later on. And Georgia come out there, curb stomp you, get you out the way. That's the old Alabama way. Beat you down in the first half. The second half, you don't want to come out and play, and we on cruise control. So we got to get back to that method, Steve. It's no ifs, no ands, no buts about it. We have lost that mentality. And as fans, we just have to accept we ain't the big dog on the block anymore. It's another badass kid on the block that's challenging us chest for chest, toe to toe, in every phase of the game. So my thing is, everybody wants to look at star rating, 5-star, 4-star. Well, people forget Jacobs, the running back we had. That kid was a 3-star, and he was one of our most dominant players. It's just that he had to wait his turn. Joshua Jacobs. Everybody gets caught up on this star rating. In some of these, I'm going to be honest with you, some of these big-time players that come to Alabama, obviously they ain't panning out because a lot of them ain't touching the field and a lot of them are hitting that transfer portal. So to me, you got to kind of throw these star ratings out the window and you got to go back to who fits your system, who fits your scheme, and who just looks like they're downright dog at their position. Because, now college football is wide open, Steve. If a 5-star feels like I'm not getting my just due, he's out of there after his first year. So I'm not saying don't go after these 5 stars, don't go after these 4 stars, but I think the evaluating of these kids is somewhat off because a lot of times their talent level in high school is not transferring over to the college level, and maybe some kids is just meant to be high school stars, just like some kids is meant to be college stars, So I just think, like you said, we don't want to face reality, Steve, but the reality of it is right now, as we speak, there's a new alpha dog on the block, and Alabama has to come back and claim that spot. They got to punch the bully in the mouth and take that spot back. There's no other way around it. There's no other way to do it. You got to go toe-to-toe with Georgia now because they hot. I don't like Georgia, but I give credit where credit is due, Steve. They are hot, and there's no other way to go around it. We got to beat them. And that's it, man. I appreciate you taking my call.
Appreciate Elijah from Jersey calling in, just being honest. Just being flat honest. Not saying that the Alabama run is over, but Georgia is a formidable opponent. They just won back-to-back. Kirby Smart, raw, intense, in your face. He won it. And he won it just that badly. How badly now does Saban match that intensity that his former assistant, that his protege is putting out there? But we take this call. You're live on the show. What's happening? How we feeling? State your name and where you calling from.
Hey, Stephen M., Brian from Richmond. Been a while. Happy New Year to you, Justin, John Ivory, everybody in the studio. You guys, you always cap off a nice day on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So appreciate all you do and hope you all are well.
Doing great, Brian. Happy New Year to you, my man. What's on your mind right now?
So a couple things. Number one, the conference football playoffs, the committee basically queued up this season, or the cap of this season, put it on a silver platter for Georgia. You can't tell me, and I think I heard it the other day, best put, the conference playoffs were not situated on the best teams. They were situated on who they thought were the most deserving. And that's how TCU got in there, and that's how Ohio State got in there. And that wasn't a representation of who was the best teams in the country. That, number one. Number two, out of all that competition, out of the 1 through 4, Georgia, I'd even put most other 10 SEC teams into that playoff picture. They would have plowed through the TCUs and the Michigans and everybody else. So I'm not taking anything away from Georgia. A great team. But the strength of that playoff schedule played right into their hands to make them look like they were a super elite squad, where TCU had no business, if they can't even pull out the Big 12, they have no business being in that matchup. None. Michigan, overrated as usual. Ohio State, decent squad, but brought Georgia right to the ropes. So that was a nice little test in terms of how super elite Georgia really is. Second, if you take that, Stephen M., and even parlay it back into the season, I give this about Georgia and comparative to Bama. Their strength of schedule is not comparative to ours. Like, they have a much easier schedule. Again, I'm not making excuses for what happened to us this year, but their strength of schedule plays right into their hands where they're not pushed to the limit. They don't have the strength that we do in terms of folks that we go up against. Lastly, and I think this goes to your point about Saban, really about taking it up a notch, and it's something that we talked about all season, the coaches, the coordinators, the fact that our players weren't getting incrementally better through the season is right on the coaches. And the one thing that could be a knock on Nick is we were too complacent about doing something about it. We saw it week in and week out. We weren't making adjustments. We weren't making our checks. We weren't basically getting the right players on the field. And it seemed like every week we were just caught in that deja vu, that Groundhog Day scenario. I like the Nick back in in time in 19 where we were yanking starting quarterbacks out of the national championship game because we couldn't get something going. Yet this season, it felt like we were just sitting back and waiting for Pete to kind of break out, and he never did. Or Bill to do something in the booth, and he never did. Or Holmon Wiggins to make the receivers better, and it never happened. So I think we can't underestimate the fact that this is probably Nick's last sprint. And the recruiting class that we just pulled off is phase 1. Phase 2, we have got to get the best of the best in terms of the coordinators. If that takes a little time to flush that out, great. But if we get the best of the best that's out there to come to the best of the best program, to work with the best of the best talent that clearly is represented in this 23 class and moving forward, we're going to be fine. We just haven't had the support staff to step this whole thing up. I'm firmly believing in the Kansas State game that Pete was allowed to do just about maybe halfway through or maybe the first quarter, and Nick just basically said, be quiet, we're turning your headphones off, and I'm going to call the game. You saw a fundamental break where Pete just went quiet, the game turned the other way, and it's because he can't handle it. And it's nothing against Pete. Great recruiter, not a good coordinator. So at the end of the day, if we get the right coordinators with this level of talent and this program, we're going to be fine. I'll leave you with one final point as it relates to Bama, which cannot be compared with any other program in the country. The reason we're going to keep getting the talent and the reason we're going to keep being the marquee program to go to is because look at the NFL. NIL and everything else is great, but look at the draft status. Look at the people that we're putting in the big league. Recruits see that, they know that, and you come to Bama for that. Now, I'm not saying Georgia doesn't put people in the NFL. I'm not saying other programs don't. But they don't prepare them and they don't shove them in at the levels that we are. And that is something that Nick has built over years. And we just need the supporting cast so it's off his shoulders and people can run the offense, the defense, the wide receivers, secondary, everything in between. Because for the last 3 years, we haven't had it. And we let Georgia step into this role where they're on center stage. We can kick them off real quick with not only this class, but a set of coordinators that can basically say, hey, our strength of schedule is better than yours. Our talent's better than yours. Now our coaching is better than yours. Go away. We're back up here. Interested in hearing your thoughts.
Appreciate Brian calling in from Richmond. That's the main thing. That's the main thing. That's the main thing that everybody's been saying. That's what Jay from Florence has been saying this whole time, is getting better coordinators, getting better assistant coaches. I've made this point before. You got to have aces on your staff. You have to have aces. I go back to 2015. What made that 2015 Bama team so great? Nick Saban had an ace at every part of that staff. You had Kirby Smart run the defense. You had Lane Kiffin run the offense. You had Mario Cristobal run the offensive line. You had Mel Tucker running the safeties. You had an ace at every spot of that staff. That's why that 2015 Bama team was so great and respected. Bama gets back to having aces on the coaching staff, then we about to see something. We're going to take this call here. You're live on the show. What's happening? How we feeling? State your name and where you calling from.
Hey, Steve. This is Michael from Columbus, South Carolina. How you doing?
Doing great, Michael. How you feeling?
Good. I know it's been a while since I've been on here. I just want to wish you Happy New Year's. Hope the family, everything's going good on your side.
Everything's going great, man. Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you. A couple of things I want to talk on, that think about this season this year. This season, leading up to the college football playoffs, I just felt like Alabama should have been in. No doubt about it. I mean, yes, you look at the games they lost, they lost to Tennessee. But look at what happened to Tennessee, Stephen. They lost to the South Carolina Gamecocks. That was an unranked team. How can anybody say that, okay, yes, the loss against Tennessee, yes, that Bama barely, they only lost that game by what, a field goal by Chase McGrath, Stephen? And then they go and lose to the South Carolina Gamecock. I just don't understand how Alabama was not in. You look at the other teams, Michigan, Ohio State, and TCU. I never thought Michigan should have been in it. I never thought TCU should have been in it. If there's any two teams I believe that should have been in it, it should have been Bama and maybe Notre Dame or LSU. Maybe one of those teams. And now we get to the national championship games, and I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be a really good game between TCU and Georgia. Could be close. TCU could possibly, they win, they could change, college football as we know it. But it was a slaughter, Stephen. It was a slaughter. This was just, it was horrible. I mean, Stetson Bennett pretty much, Kirby Smart literally sat him out within the second half. It was horrible. And I just look back like, was it all worth it really to come to this? When we could have been looking at a Alabama-Georgia game, possibly seeing a tougher, a more, tougher, tighter game than we saw, with TCU and Georgia. I just didn't like how it went. I just felt like people who was at the game really should be getting their monies back for it. But I want to ask you how you felt about this. What do you think? Who do you think should have been in the playoffs?
Who do I think should have been in the playoffs? Well, obviously Georgia should have been in there. Obviously, you could put Ohio State in there. A 2-loss Bama, yeah, even with 2 losses, I feel like you put Bama in there. Bama has a track record where they're gonna give you a game. They're gonna give you a game. The ratings are gonna be there. The revenue is gonna be there. The excitement is gonna be there, and Bama's gonna come ready to play. Win or lose, they're gonna come ready to play. They would be Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, and the fourth team here. The fourth team. LA should have been good. The fourth team, you know what? I really didn't have much of a problem with Michigan. I really didn't. I think Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan. I think the only team that shouldn't have been in there is TCU. And I understand TCU, 1-loss team, but I go back to the College Football Playoff Committee contradicted itself all season. You look at one of the most critical factors being, can we turn on the tape and see you dominate an opponent from start to finish? We did not see TCU dominate an opponent from start to finish all year. If it gets to Kansas State, a team that they should have boat raced, that was a 3-loss team, Kansas State basically handled TCU from start to finish. The Horned Frogs did not even drop in the poll after they lost. Just a complete busted job by the College Football Playoff Committee, and one where the committee should be ashamed. They should be absolutely ashamed. They're probably not going to be, but they should be.
And then the final thing I want to talk to you about is the transfer portal. I've always said, Stephen, that the transfer portal is a blessing and a curse, because I really feel like the players that commit to a team, they get that scholarship. But then when a season isn't going their way, they want to, go and move to another school. I just don't like that. I've never liked the transfer portal to begin with. And I think, to me, the only thing really success that comes out of it, that you get better players from different teams. But you still see, even with getting good players from transfer portal, it still doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a good season. And so, looking at the guys that left Bama, Christian Leary, JoJo Earl, these guys were guys that really fit with the team, with the receivers that Alabama had, with Jacoby Brooks, with Kobe Prentice, Isaiah Bond. And even Crayshawn Holden, I was really shocked when Crayshawn Holden transferred because I really thought, this was his season to really do big things here, and to see him just go was really kind of surprising to me. But I want to get your take on how do you feel about the transfer portal, in particularly Bama players entering the transfer portal?
I mean, there are several things, Michael, that you don't like about it, but at the same time, you also have to ask yourself, did these players know, hey, I'm not going to have the opportunity that I thought I was going to have? Of course, we as people, we want to see these young men fight it out, battle it out, show you the guy, show that you are better than the other guys you're competing against. But at the same time, if you already know in the back of your mind, I'm not going to have a shot here, then what else do you do? Where else do you go? Sure you can sit still and wait the thing out and do what a Brian Robinson did, do what a Mac Jones did, do what other guys do, and just be patient and wait your time. But we're at a day and age, Michael, where the patience of people is just razor thin. They don't want to wait anymore. They want to go and get theirs now. And that's just kind of is what it is. But we appreciate Michael from South Carolina calling in right there. We grabbed this call. You're live on the show. What's happening? How we feeling? State your name and where you calling from.
This is Will, calling from Savannah, Georgia. How you doing, Steve?
Doing good, man. Doing fantastic. Better yet, man, how are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Your show kicking off, and I love it. But let's get into this. Nick Saban, the coordinators, if he's going to get new coordinators, whatever happens this season with coordinators and coaches is going to define what Alabama going to be and how serious Nick Saban is in reestablishing his dynasty. Now, what Kirby Smart is doing is it's what Nick Saban was doing when he first got to Alabama. His way or the highway. We're going to dominate. We're going to make this other team across from us fear us, whether they want to or not. We're going to snatch their manhood as soon as they step on that field. Heck, when we won our first national championship with Nick Saban against Texas, I watched the video. I said, well, we're going to win this. Because while Texas was warming up and Alabama hit the field, those guys stopped and looked. Nobody ever give a damn about when Alabama comes to the field. Why? Because we created this problem. I can't get mad at Georgia. Georgia said we want to dominate, and we will dominate. When you look at Pete Golden, he's like the water boy. When the coach look at the other coach, he goes sliding all the way back into the tunnel. If Nick decides to keep him and decide with these pitiful coaches, he do not want to establish that dynasty. You got to get people. Look, it's easy. Look what Kirby doing. He's doing the same thing that Alabama is somehow getting away with it. Getting away from it. Look at when the last time we actually got dominant defensive linemen, dominant offensive linemen? Can you name one? I mean, you look at Georgia recruiting. Go ahead.
The last dominant defensive lineman, the last dominant one would be Christian Barmore. The last dominant offensive lineman, Landon Dickerson.
Yeah, but I mean, this year we bringing in some offensive linemen. Now, these guys are going to work because I think, and they show like it's a couple of them on that offensive line that they had recruited that want to be dogs, who want to just beat you. But who's on defense? We got that guy from Carver. That's it. You got this guy from Kansas, but, I mean, come on. What happened to our big guys? You don't have to be like Mount Cody, but dang, get somebody at least 6'4", 6'5", 320-something pounds, just like Jaheim Otis. If you watch Stephen Jaheim Otis play, that kid got it. He gets it. But you got to surround other dogs with him. I mean, don't you agree?
You got to. I mean, you have to, especially if you want to be able to punch Georgia in the mouth and punch everybody else in the mouth. You got to have guys up front that can get that pressure and can create that wall. You got to have it.
And we can't just like, what the frick these penalties coming from? I mean, we're going to get it straightened out. No, you said that from the beginning of the season all the way to the end of the season. Nothing got straightened out. I mean, we need to get coordinators who's going to replace Coach Saban. Now, what's the deal on Jeremy Pruitt? Is he on the show clause or what? Do you know, and can you find out?
Well, right now, the rumor going is he could be able to return to coach in the SEC. And if that is the case, if the rumor is true, if I'm Coach Saban, that would be a guy I'd make a call to. But I appreciate Will from Savannah calling into the show. That'd be a guy I would make a call to be Kirby Smart, because not Kirby Smart, Jeremy Pruitt, especially if the rumors are true. Because if the SEC can allow Hugh Freeze back in and Bobby Petrino back in, should be able to allow Jeremy Pruitt back in. I'm just saying. We're going to take this call. You're live on the show. What's happening? How we feeling? State your name and where you calling from.
What's up, Steven? This is Sean from Huntsville. How you doing, brother?
Doing great, man. Happy New Year to you, brother.
Happy New Year, Steven. How you been, man? Been good?
Been good, man. Been good. Been fantastic. For me, just looking forward to seeing Saban kind of, undercut and disrupt all this momentum that Kirby got going on at Georgia and, get Bama back to being, Bama.
Man, let me say this real quick, and I'm going to keep it real as I always do, man. And everything I'm about to tell you really quickly, you can run it by Marvin, you can run it by Bo, you can run it by anybody who's played this game in college and had the opportunity to coach it now, same as myself. Listen, man, our fans, I love our fans, but I think they got it wrong, man. People are talking about we don't got no players and all this stuff. Listen, man, we have great players at Bama, great players. Just as good as players, better players than 99% of the schools out there. It's one thing, if you want to compare us to Georgia, present day Bama to Georgia, is one thing that Georgia's doing that we are not doing. And if you think I'm lying, go ask Greg McElroy, because Greg McElroy confirmed everything that I told you on this very show almost a year ago. All you got to do is go to a Georgia practice, then go to a Bama practice. It's not about players, man. It's about discipline. It's about coaching staff. It's about things like that. It's about culture, that one word, culture. Our players are too busy on Twitter showing their Louis bags and all that. You don't see Georgia doing that stuff, man. On IG, you don't see Georgia doing none of that. Look at our players when they celebrate, man. They don't celebrate with the team. They run away from the team. Me. The culture at Bama is not the same as it used to be. Look at our players, brother. Go to a Bama practice. You see the players with the helmets off, mouthpieces out in the games. You don't see that at Georgia. I wish you would take your helmet off on a Georgia practice. You're going to be running. I got frat bros down there to tell me, you are not allowed to take your helmet off until Coach Kirby say so. The culture is different. We cannot be upset at Georgia because Kirby is holding their feet to the fire, man. It's different, man. We have a bunch of players at Bama right now who are great players, but they are living off the laurels of the past Bama players. It's not being taught. It's not the same at Bama right now. Hell, Coach Saban even said it right now. So whose fault is that? Is it Pete Golding's? Because he's the defensive coordinator, but that's not his defense. He's running Nick Saban's defense, that drop 8, rush 3, That's Nick Saban's defense for everybody out there. That's not Pete Golding's defense. Pete Golding is just the person who called the plays, right? Why is it that Georgia gets in the game and blitzes? They played the same Tennessee team that we played. You know the difference? They blitz Tennessee with no fear of giving it up on the back end. Because they, like Kirby said, they going hunting. They blitz. We blitz. We give up 5 touchdowns. It's a difference, brother. It's a difference. And it's not players. Let me say that again before I go. It's a difference. And it's not players. It's culture. Stop worrying about Twitter. Stop worrying about IG. And look at Georgia. Them guys was focused. Them kids don't give a you know what about Twitter. They don't care about none of that. They was on Twitter. They was on social media making fun of Will Anderson, though, when he said the anxiety thing. Those kids are focused, brother. That's the only difference right now. Our kids have got their head in the clouds. Georgia want to win. The hunger. I think Alphonse Shank had the best tweet of any tweet I've seen all season long. He told the Bama fans, he said, I don't see what y'all so mad about. Why y'all so mad? Alabama won tonight. They just had on Georgia jerseys. Now think about that for a minute. Steven, I love you, brother. I love your show. I'm going to hang up and listen to your response. Again, it's not the players. It's the culture, brother. It's got to change. Roll Tide, man. And as always, I'll be here to support.
Appreciate Sean from Huntsville always bringing in a strong perspective. And that was a very strong one there. We're going to take this call. You're live on the show. What's going on? How we feeling? State your name and where you calling from.
Hey, how you doing, Sean? This is Quentin from Birmingham. I'm just going to piggyback off of what Sean just said. It's the culture. Alabama won Monday. It wasn't Georgia. It was not Georgia. Also, I would say this. If you look back at the history, and of all them listeners out there, I hope they listen. Look back at the history. When the Nick Saban coach team lose, except with the exception for the national championship against Georgia and Clemson, it's about 1 touchdown or less. Alabama will be back this season. I promise you, Alabama will be back this upcoming season. It's going to be a different offensive coordinator. Mark my word. Pete Golding will not be there this season. Mark my word. I went to Vegas. I rolled my dice on it. Pete Golding will not be in Tuscaloosa. Bill O'Brien, he will not be in Tuscaloosa. The fire will be lit again. The Roman Empire will not fall just yet. The dynasty is not dead. The dynasty is not dead. I repeat, the dynasty is not dead. Hell, hey, I'm glad that Georgia done won these past 2 years because they saved me money in my pocket because I'm tired of buying championship gear every year. I got a championship banner that I got to add 2 more years to. Give me some time. Save me some money in my pockets, please.
Appreciate Clint from Birmingham calling in right there to the show on a Wednesday. We grabbed this call. You're live on the show. What's happening? How we feeling? State your name and where you calling from.
Is that me?
Yeah, you're in. You're right here. You're on.
Hey, okay. Hey, thank you, Stephen. This is Agar. Man, let me tell you, I really enjoy your show, first of all. But, you know, I always felt like that Kirby would be the first person to beat Coach Saban. And end up Jimbo got in. But here's the thing, and I thoroughly agree with the last couple of callers that was talking about as far as the culture and stuff of that nature. You know, I told people after the Tennessee game, after we had got beat by Tennessee, and they were coming up to play Georgia, I said, I guarantee you, they will not score on Kirby's team like before. Now, Stephen, would you agree that at the first of the year, all the experts were saying that we had probably the best defensive personnel that was around? Would you agree with that?
It was thought that this was the year for the defense. I mean, even I myself, looking at the paper, thought, okay, this defense was going to be something.
Exactly. And would you also agree that nobody was saying Georgia's defense, especially after all those people they lost, nobody was saying Georgia's defense, and this before any snap was done or kickoff was done, that Georgia's defense could even compare with ours. Would you agree with that as well?
I agree with that also.
Okay, now look at the difference in what occurred, though. We had a guy like Will Anderson. And I'm telling you, if Kirby had our defense that we had this year, I guarantee you Will Anderson would have been, no telling how many records he would have broken, because he would have put schemes in so that they couldn't neutralize him. Man, the latter part of the year, it's almost like we didn't even hear Will's name that much about getting sacks or anything like that. And that's the coordinators. Also, we just got through with the best class we could that we maybe have had in some years. But if you don't have the coordinators and support staff that can develop these guys, I think we're going to be in for the same exact thing. And I think it's time for us to realize that just maybe, not taking anything away from Coach Saban, but just maybe, when you look at the coordinators we've had, like Kirby and Pruitt, Sark, and Kiffin, just maybe the support staff we had, keeping those people together like that, made us and made him what he is. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Coach Saban, but I'm saying made him what he is. And then bottom line is this. Sometimes I think people can get too big for their britches. Now, I love some Alabama, and I love Coach Saban. But I think when he started letting a lot of these coordinators go and flip them like they did, we kept winning. I think in some ways, maybe he thought it was all about him. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. Because when he did what he did with Kiffin, coming up to that championship game, I'm telling you, I would go to my last grave and believe, had Kiffin stayed as coordinator for that championship game, we'd have had another championship. But I think he felt like he could do that, and maybe because of who he is and the aura that was around him, that we would still get away. Now we got close, but it just didn't happen. So my point is, I just feel like unless he goes out and he gets some coordinators in here that's going to really be what's what. You know, they were talking about this Cliff guy that just got fired from Arizona. And the bottom line is they use our offense anyway, so they got to learn our offense, and I guess they'll throw some of that other stuff in. Bottom line is, Stephen, he's got to make the right choices with that. If he does not, we're going to have people that will be losing, and with all these 5 stars that want to come here, we're going to be losing them guys, and we're going to have the same results. But, man, I really appreciate your show and appreciate what you do. Thank you so much.
Appreciate Agar calling in from North Carolina right there, giving us his thoughts on a Wednesday. We moved to this call. You're live on the show. What's happening? How we feeling? State your name and what's on your mind right now?
Hey, Stephen, what's going on? This is Alan X from Alexander City. How you doing today?
Doing great, Alan. How we doing, man?
Man, I'm doing fine, man. Really, truly blessed, man. Love your show. Love what you got going on. Just want to say this right quick. I'm listening to these callers, man, and I know everybody's, worked up about Alabama and what Georgia has done and stuff like that. And, yeah, the next few months we're going to be hearing sports announcers talking about the end of Alabama Dynasty and Georgia, being on top and all that. But, yeah, we got to deal with that. But, I just want to remind people of a couple of things. First of all, number one, Alabama is already established. So people going to say what they're going to say. Well, I mean, Nick Saban and Alabama, we're already established. So, let them talk, and we'll walk the walk. But what I like about what's going on right now is it's just like the players that Alabama get when they say iron sharpens iron. What Kirby Smart is doing over there at Georgia, all it does is, Nick Saban, trust me, Nick Saban is proud of him. He's glad he's having success. But all it does is motivate Nick Saban. In other words, iron sharpen iron, coaches sharpen coaches. Nick Saban seeing what's going on, and it motivates him, and it motivates Alabama. Now, I disagree with that caller where he was talking about Lane Kiffin, and if he had a coach that, we would have won, all that. Yeah, that's a nice opinion, but I really don't believe that. That was a different team. Alabama had a great offense that year. The defense wasn't all that. So we gave up all those points to Oklahoma, even though we beat Oklahoma. And so I just think that, we got a long way to go. We got some good players coming in. We got some players from last year. We got a couple of good news on some players that were here last year that are going to be coming back next year. And so Alabama got a long way to go. But Georgia, yeah, they're established and they're on the right track. But yeah, it's true. Alabama, we're gonna be in the hunt. And what's really fixing to happen, Stephen, I get your comment on this. What's really about to happen is we're gonna have Alabama and Georgia competing for the national championships. And whoever fall off, that's going to be the team that wins it. In other words, like Alabama fell off this year, okay, Georgia won it. If Georgia fall off next year, it'll probably be Alabama winning. So that's what's basically going to go on. And people don't realize that. But what do you think on that?
I mean that's why, Alan, that they're trying to get this 12-team playoff to keep the SEC teams from trying to get in the national championship games. But all that you're doing is you're creating even more opportunity for the SEC teams to get into the championship games. But appreciate Alan there for calling into the show on a Wednesday. I mean, if Coach Saban knows we got to get this thing situated with right two coordinators in, you got to have guys on your staff to take the pressure off of you. Coach Saban, the last 2 years, his face has had more pressure on it than usual. You got to get guys that take that pressure off of you in terms of guys that know what they're doing in terms of play calling. We're going to grab this call. You're live on the show. What's happening? How we feeling? State your name and where you calling from.
Tide Man from Jackson, Mississippi. Happy New Year to you, brother.
Doing great, Tide Man. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate the calls and the comments, and I appreciate your opening remarks as well. I really agree with Sean from Huntsville there. I think he hit the nail on the head with his comments. The thing that's concerning and disappointing to me is that when you look at the state next door to Alabama, and you see what Kirby Smart's doing and it's just the way that they're winning. Okay, it's we knew he could recruit and all that, but like Sean was saying, man, Kirby's over there. Like Nick Saban has always preached the mantra of the little things are the big things, and he gets these guys so focused in and keyed in on the things that these kids coming out of high school have probably never heard before. Don't even think it's significant. But Nick Saban is such a stickler for detail, and that's what you didn't see this year. You see Georgia winning the way that Alabama has won, and it's supposed to win. It's not like when Auburn won with Cam Newton, and it's like they caught lightning in a bottle, and there was a bunch of shenanigans that never came to surface about that whole deal. But you're looking at Georgia, and Kirby Smart is like the guy said, man, we got guys. I don't understand this new trend or who came up with it or who thinks it's cool to go out there with your mouthpiece, hanging off of your face mask. Have you noticed that? I mean, I see all kinds of kids doing it these days. But that's something that you think that Nick Saban, that's a little detail that in the past Nick Saban would have been like, get your daggone mouthpiece in. That little small type of detail that sets a tone and sends a message to these kids. Man, it ain't just about you. We're trying to win a national championship here. And I think in a nutshell, the past couple of years, 3 years or so, we have seen Alabama become the school where that's where you go to get to the next level. And that's great. Alabama should be that. Nick Saban to set that standard. But Georgia is over there saying, we want to win a national championship. We want to win 2 national championships. Now we want to be the first to three-peat. That's their mindset. So Nick Saban has to get, and like you said, being objective, Stephen M., and I appreciate that because it's just hard for me to say it, but, I need Nick Saban to get some fire back in his belly, man. I don't know if he's mellowing with age or what, but I need some fire back in his belly. I need him to get back to telling these guys that the little things are the big things. We have way too many penalties, ridiculous amount of penalties. Even our best player on defense, was jumping off sides, just weird stuff that should never happen to a player of that caliber coached by Nick Saban's coach team. The coordinators, obviously, we all have concerns about that. I trust Nick Saban to make the right decision in that regard. But I want to see Nick Saban get the fire back in his belly, man, because to me, it looks like he's lost a little bit of it. He's become a little bit too tolerant of things in the past he was never tolerant about. That's just the impression I get. I think that now, especially with David Pollock's comment to him, sitting there on that panel, I think maybe that was what needed to happen to light the fire back under him. And I think we're going to be fine. But that's just my comments, and I want to get your thoughts on that, Stephen. Tell me what you think. Y'all have a happy New Year. Roll Tide.
Appreciate Todd, man, checking in there from Mississippi. I think David Pollock's comments did light a fire. I think Paul Feinbaum's comments these last few days have lit a fire as well. I mean, there's nothing like friction, right? You need challenge. You need friction. You need something to sharpen you. You really do. And though Kirby Smart and what he's done, and Saban's proud of him, obviously, because you produced the guy that's winning championships right now at Georgia. Obviously, Nick Saban's proud of him. But we also know Saban's uber competitive. He said this: I will leave the game when I feel like I've reached a point where I'm not effective, where I'm not winning at the highest level, where I am not molding these young guys into men at the highest level. When I'm not doing those things, then I go home. I leave the game. So this is an off-season where Coach Saban can start that last script of, I can still be effective at the highest level. And it starts this offseason. We're going to grab this call. You're live on the show. What's happening? How we feeling? State your name. And what's on your mind right now?
What's up, Stephen? What's happening? Uncle Charles in the new year, y'all.
Hey, Uncle Charles is popping up in the new year. What's going on, man?
And I want to say this to all the Alabama fans, my family. I ain't going to say fans. I'm going to say my family. Man, I hope y'all had a decent Christmas and a new year. And for all the loved ones that have been lost in the last year, Godspeed. And we're going to get over it. We're going to get through it through time. Let me just say this, man. Ain't nothing wrong with Nick Saban. Let me explain to you why ain't nothing wrong with Nick Saban. If you see Nick Saban down in his lake house, down there throwing rocks in the water, and he's naked, you worry about Nick Saban. If he's naked and he ain't saying nothing, you better believe something wrong with it, and he's too old, and he need to go sit down somewhere. Nick Saban is fine. Y'all, do you realize we had a winning season? We won the Sugar Bowl. It proved in the national championship TCU should have never been there. They wasn't prepared. But I wish I would have said that 8 years ago when I was in the grocery store. Hey, I was in the grocery store, man, doing what OGs do. Give me some groceries and buy me a Hungry Jack meal. And then I got me a Coke. They call them Coke, but us OGs, we call them Coca-Colas. So I was in there giving, and all of a sudden I went around the blind side in the aisle, and my basket hit another basket. I looked up, I didn't see anybody. Then I looked down, it was this little boy. I said, hey, little man, you need to watch where you're going, little man. I ain't no little man, I'm a grown man. I said, not from where I'm standing. And then he come out from behind the basket, he headbutted me in the stomach. Now we on the floor tussling. And man, I ain't know what to do. I am getting my behind handed to me by Danny DeVito. And when I was able to get loose, I took off, and all of a sudden he was right behind me. Thank God I had a lead on him, because if he'd have caught me, no telling what he'd have did to me. This is what you call being prepared. And see, that day I wasn't. So ain't nothing wrong with Nick Saban. We got the best recruit class in the world. Listen, y'all, we are blessed beyond means. Nick Saban is just reloading. So don't worry about it. But I tell you this. Long as he come out there doing 8 days, looking like his swag with that pink blazer on, looking like his swag on 250, ain't nothing wrong with Nick Saban. And another thing, I'm going to say this in closing. Coach, I've been standing up for you all year, even when you rolled the arrows and the rocks was coming in. Now, Coach, all I want for you is one thing, is to sit down at Buffalo Wild Wings and have a dinner. And everybody knows who Uncle Charles is, and I'm not going to stop until I get that dinner with Nick Saban. And that's all I got to say. Love y'all. Happy New Year. Love y'all. And that's all I got to say, player.
Gotta start the new year off right. And you start the new year off with Uncle Charles calling. That's a perfect way to start the new year. Got my laugh to start 2023 with Uncle Charles calling in on Wednesday. Gotta shout out Brian Watson one time with that $9.99 in the Super Chats. Appreciate Brian Watson. Also, Agar Thomas with that 50-piece, a $50 donation. Appreciate Agar Thomas and DJ Webb. Webby Webb in here with that $5 donation. Appreciate all of those guys helping us out right here on the show. Once again, that daily Super Chat Go, $100 daily. Super Chat Go. Appreciate the love there coming from all of you. But we go to our topic right here of the day. The first call topic, that being Alabama had three former players make the first team NFL All-Pro on today. It came out from the pro writers, the three former Alabama players. You look at Josh Jacobs for the Las Vegas Raiders, Minkah Fitzpatrick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Patrick Surtain II for the Denver Broncos. Kudos to all those three making the first team NFL All-Pro. Josh Jacobs won the NFL rushing title this season. Minkah Fitzpatrick tied a league high with 6 interceptions. Patrick Surtain II, just a dominant year for the Denver Broncos. I think he led the team with 12 passes defended on the season. The second call topic of the conversation, we got to look at old boy Devontae Smith, who is dominating in the NFL right now. Smitty set a single-season franchise record for the Eagles for receptions with 96. And Smitty in the playoffs right now for Philly as the Eagles, the number 1 seed, the NFC East Division champion, and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. First round bye, the Eagles at 14-3, finishing the regular season. So shouts out there to Devontae Smith. But we're going to go to another break right now, folks, from the show. When we get back, we get into a conversation on could Alabama be losing a coach off its staff to Texas? But a lot of speculation going around. Does Steve Sarkisian poach an Alabama coach? We'll talk about it after this.
Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $7.95 per month, or pay $74.95 for a full year subscription. That's a yearly saving of $20. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Marvin Constant, All-SEC linebacker and 1999 SEC champion. You are listening to In My Own Words, brought to you by Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Roll Tide.
Thank you for tuning in. Show your support right now by clicking that like button. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button now and enable all notifications to make sure you don't ever miss any of the best Alabama football news, notes, and information right here on Touchdown Alabama.
All right, folks, we're back into the action from the break on a Wednesday, hump day, hottest show on the streets. Talking Crimson Tide football news. In my own words, yours truly, Stephen Smith of TDA. Continue hitting that like button, giving us that thumbs up, raising those like levels up at 88 likes right now, trying to get this thing to 100. So continue to hit that like button. Also, all donations welcome and appreciated daily. Super Chat Go, $100 right there. Thanks to all the support from you of the Alabama football fan base. But, gentlemen, look at this right here. I know the fans wanting to see the departure of Bill O'Brien and Pete Golding. When will that happen? Does it happen? We will definitely see. But could Alabama be losing another coach? I mean, there's conversation going on right now involving wide receivers coach and assistant head offensive coach Holmon Wiggins in terms of the Texas Longhorns. According to Hook'em Horns headlines, a site from fansided.com, and also from the Football Brainiacs, a donor site for the University of Texas, there have been conversations between Texas and Holmon Wiggins. Now, the Longhorns lost its wide receivers coach, Brendan Marion, to be the passing game coordinator and receivers coach for UNLV. So now Steve Sarkisian trying to find who's going to coach the receivers for the Longhorns for the future now. And Sarkisian does have familiarity with Holmon Wiggins. They were both on Nick Saban's staff 2019 and 2020. Coach Wigg, before coming to Alabama in 2019, he spent time at Virginia Tech and at Memphis as a wide receivers coach, and he's been able to polish some big names at Alabama for the NFL draft. You can look at Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith, Jamison Williams. Wiggins was able to help out with Jalen Waddle and John Mechie. Getting all those guys to the NFL, and the majority of those guys, all of those guys with the exception of Mechie, were all first-round picks. Mechie was a second-round pick. So Wiggins has done strong things in terms of recruiting and polishing guys up for the next level. Hasn't quite necessarily taken a guy from his freshman year to his junior year or senior year and made him the guy and developed that guy from point A to point B. Hopefully, he can be able to do this next season, especially with Burton coming back and Brooks coming back and Isaiah Bond, Kobe Prentice, Shaz Preston, Kendrick Law, and other guys in the fray. But with Texas having these communications here with Holmon Wiggins, the question is, can Nick Saban hold on to Alabama's wide receiver coach? So that's the big thing. Can Saban hold on to Coach Wigg? Because, once again, really good recruiter, and has been able to polish up big-name receivers for the National Football League. If Saban is able to hold on to Coach Wigg, the big question is going to be, in the upcoming season, the fall, can Alabama get back to having those 1,000-yard receivers, those guys that can create separation off the route, beat defensive backs with ease, work back to the quarterback, and just make huge plays? Because this past season, Alabama did not have a 1,000-yard receiver. Despite the fact that Ja'Cory Brooks did have 8 touchdown receptions, despite the fact that Jahmyr Gibbs, as a running back, did catch 42 passes, it just did not have the consistency from the wide receiver room. And a lot of people point to Coach Wigg as, why was there no consistency in the wide receiver room? So you're able to keep Coach Wiggins on staff. Hopefully that consistency returns in terms of having a 1,000-yard receiver for next fall. But we shall see what happens. Texas is having that communication there with Coach Wigg. But we're going to go to our final break here on the show. Don't touch that dial. When we get back, we tidy up loose ends by discussing Bryce Young, Will Anderson. The Chicago Bears have the number 1 pick in April's draft. But which guy between Will and Bryce would be the better move for Chicago? Who will be the number 1 overall pick? We'll talk about it after this.
What's up, Bama Nation? This is Rudy Griffin, former Alabama defensive lineman, and you're listening to my guy, Stephen M. Smith, in my own words, brought to you by Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Roll Tide, roll!
Every sports fan deserves the proper representation. Whitwell Sports introduces to you the Title Towel. Wave that Title Towel in the air like you just don't care. In support of Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only $9.99 and it lasts a lifetime. Head on over to whitwellsports.com and get your Title Towel today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $7.95 per month, or pay $74.95 for a full year subscription. That's a yearly saving of $20. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
We are back into the action, folks, from the break. Hottest show on the streets, talking Bama football news. In my own words, yours truly, Stephen Smith of TDA. People remember the new show time for In My Own Words, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Catch In My Own Words, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, right here, TDA's YouTube channel. Continue hitting that like button, giving us that thumbs up, getting those likes up right there, trying to end this show one 100 likes. We got the 100. Let's try to get 150 before the show ends. Continue hitting that like button. Try to hit that 150 before the show ends. Also, all donations welcome. All donations appreciated. That daily super chat go $100 right there. Appreciate you guys for all the love you're showing us here on the show. Alabama men's basketball beating Arkansas right now. The score 49-48. Nate Oates put the smackdown on Kentucky on last weekend. That was fantastic. This Alabama men's basketball team looks like it may make a run here to the Final Four. So keep your eyes there on, those guys. What a season Alabama men's basketball is having. But we wrap this thing up, John, with the NFL draft's coming up in April. NFL draft in April. And Alabama has two guys that could end up being the number one overall pick, Bryce Young and Will Anderson. Either one of these two could be the number one pick in the draft. But the question is, which one will it be? Who will be the number one pick? Who would it profit more be the number one pick between Will Anderson and Bryce Young? Because the team that holds that card, the Chicago Bears, after finishing the year at 4-13, the Bears have the number one overall pick. And what's interesting here is, if the Bears take Will Anderson, they could really restart being back to having a dominant defense. Because who does Anderson draw a lot of comparison to? Khalil Mack. When the Bears had Khalil Mack, the Bears were just wrecking people. Chicago, a few years back, had an insane, crazy defense. I mean, Eddie Jackson was just picking people off left and right, which he's still doing that. But the Bears had an insanely crazy defense about 4 to 5 years ago. And you get a Will Anderson, you could reset that defense back to that. Back to being a very dominant group. With Anderson's ability to rush off the edge and sack quarterbacks and fight off double and triple teams, and his strength at the mesh point to stop the run, and so many different things Anderson can do. So if you were to make him the number one overall pick, Chicago could reset its defense being a dominant force. But if it takes Bryce Young, is Chicago willing to move off Justin Fields after 1 year? After 2 years. Are they willing to move off of Justin Fields after 2 years? That's the question, because ESPN's Mike Tannenbaum talked about earlier on Get Up that, if you were to move off of, Justin Fields and draft Bryce Young, you can get picks for Justin Fields, a first and a third pick, and stack pile picks together and just really put a team around Bryce, which I could see that happening. But Justin Fields had a good second season. He did have 24 touchdown passes, if I'm not mistaken, or 25 total touchdowns, something like that. 8 picks. Wasn't a terrible year for Justin Fields, but I could see Chicago needing more offensive line help, maybe another receiver, some more guys on defense. Would it benefit Bryce going to Chicago? I couldn't see that. I could see Bryce Seattle. I could see Bryce Houston. Could see Bryce in those two areas versus Chicago. But with the Bears having the number one overall pick, do they leverage trading Justin Fields, drafting Bryce Young, getting a whole bunch of picks, even having a team where Bryce could really, truly thrive in? It would be interesting to see where they go to with this. It'd be really interesting, because he or Bryce or Will, either one could go first round at this point. It could go number one overall pick at this point. Either one can. Will can go to the Bears, reset their defense, get them back to playing dominant football. It could be crazy. Bryce could go to Chicago with the number one overall pick. You trade Justin Fields, stockpile a whole bunch of picks, get Bryce in an offense where he's throwing to a whole bunch of incredible talent, and that could be something right there. So a lot of leverage here. The Chicago Bears are sitting in a very interesting chair. They're in a very interesting seat. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. It could be very intriguing either way. But you being an Alabama fan, which one would it profit more? Would it profit Will Anderson to go for number 1 to Chicago, or would it profit Bryce Young to go number 1 to Chicago? But as always, Tide Nation, drop your thoughts in the chat line. You got thoughts on that right there. But if you want the best in news, notes, information, material, entertainment, you can get that by accessing the Touchdown Alabama magazine app, people. You download the app from the iPhone App Store. If you're rocking Team Apple, Google Play Store. If you got the Android phone. For your audio listening needs, check us out, iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Spreaker, TuneIn Radio, Overcast.fm, or iHeartRadio. We got you covered right there. The good and gracious Lord sees fit. I'll try to be back on Friday, continuing the conversation that is Tide football. Remember, Bama fans, you can purchase individual copies of Touchdown Alabama magazine. Have those sent to your door. That link found in the description. If you're trying to get your hands on the fresh edition, print edition of TDA the magazine, you go to touchdownalabama.com. You click join, become a member or a subscriber today. That link in the description as well. People continue to follow Touchdown Alabama recruiting. Our own Justin Smith doing some phenomenal stuff now as the director of scouting and recruiting for TDA. Bama, TDA, we're covering all recruits. No matter where they end up going to, Justin is on the road covering all recruits. So follow us, TDA Recruiting, on Twitter. Some big, massive stuff coming. You thought Justin was doing some stuff. You hadn't seen nothing yet. This is the tip of the iceberg for this dude. Follow TDA Recruiting. Follow Justin. He is literally about to take the top off the whole game and flip it sideways. So I'm excited to see what he and my man John Ivory are about to conjure up with in terms of this Alabama football recruiting. Guys, shout out you guys, the incredible fans of Bama football. All the calls, the likes, the donations, the conversations we've been able to have today. You guys making this your show, your network platform, channel, and space to talk Alabama football. Appreciate you guys. Gotta show some love to my man John Ivory in the production studio, doing his thing behind the scenes right there. And until next time, folks, husbands, love your wives. Wives appreciate, value those husbands. Children, you guys continue doing the right thing, fun thing, smart thing, good thing, legitimate thing to not be bored there. You get yourself those 3 hearty meals a day, those 3 great laughs a day. You protect yourself, you protect the loved ones around you. Until Friday, folks, I'm your man, Stephen M. Smith, and you've been listening to In My Own Words.